Trustees meeting to order, and present we have everybody but David Eckberg, Mariana. So,
I'm not sure you can do it that way in the minutes.
oh, all right. Present we have we have Jane Davis, we have Mary Tinty, we have Janet Maney, we have Amy Yasdani, we have Marguerite Landry, and we have our director, who would be Ryan. Okay.
And Mr. Timothy Litt is in the
In
audience
the
because
audience.
we need that
Okay.
for the minutes as well.
All right. So, our first order of business is to approve the minutes from May 2nd.
Give me 1 minute. I printed them and I forgot to read them, so now I am.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me
Short.
to put them on the screen? Because they came out very late.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
good.
Jane is nodding yes, so I'm gonna do it because all I needed was one nod.
All right.
Okay, so give me one moment. It's one of the few times where the minutes will fit all on the screen.
Yeah.
So
I love everybody's background, Jane.
Yeah.
We're not envious in the
Back
least.
to China. So you're back from Florida, Jane?
I'm in South Florida. You saw me Thursday.
Oh, that's right. I saw you. Last week is kind of a blur.
Yes, it's a blur. All right, the minutes, everyone.
Yes, I finished. I'm good with them.
You too. Anyone want to offer corrections?
Well,
Okay, do I have a motion to accept as written?
I'll motion.
Okay, a second.
Second?
All right, all those in favor? Miss Tinty,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
hi.
Ms. Yazdani,
Aye.
Ms. Maney,
Aye.
and Landry is aye, so the minutes are approved, and thank you, Ryan. All right, second order of business is the director's report. Do you want to speak to it, Ryan?
sort of asking if any questions. I did think that up earlier yesterday than it did. I apologize. I was at my parents' house and
I have one small one.
yeah.
When you said you want board's permission to spend any excess book bills out of the supplemental fund, can you
Yeah.
estimate how much that might be?
So we have it as a separate agenda item, Janet. So I
Oh.
put that in the director's report just because I wanted to explain it a
Okay.
little bit in the report so that it was like, because we only do this once a year and sometimes I do it in June. So I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive. I'll answer your question though. We do not have an anticipated amount that we would spend.
Okay.
Every year that the board has authorized the ability to do this, we've actually never done it.
Okay.
So the idea is to try to use up the line item budget. And then this is more of a kind of like if for whatever reason we have a book that's stuck, because I'll kind of explain what happens with ordering. We order books and then sometimes the books go to a back ordered status with our vendor Ingram in particular, which is the sort of the more problematic one. They will lock particular books in what they call committed or processing status. When that happens, we cannot cancel the book. I can also not control when the book comes in. So as sort of, because I know you want to answer the question, which is it would not be very much money because it would be basically anticipated books that are just going to spill over into the fiscal year. So we get a discount on the books. So there is this process for encumbering town funds so that we could, like if a product comes with it before the end of the fiscal year, and then we just need to pay the bill after. The problem with Ingram is once the book is ordered and then it gets locked, I can't control when the book comes. if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then I don't always know what the final bill is, and because it depends on the discount, the particular discount we're getting on that book. So we would only really do it the first week or two into the new fiscal year. And I'm not anticipating it would be most of the large orders for the end of year are being placed now through the end of May. So it's
Mhm.
very unlikely we would have large bills coming in. But I will also report on this in July so that you would get a full report of the end of year.
So this is more of a pro forma. Let's get this in the books that you have authorization to do it in case.
I think we should still approve it every year just because um, I think it's a good refresher. It's a good refresher for me and for you that because we have a supplemental account that we can only spend money on books and we almost never use it. And then even though this is a potential use of that fund, we still have never used it for this purpose, but it is helpful because then we don't have to go to the friends group and have them have a debate on whether or not to pay a bill we already have committed. We could also return the books to Ingram and then reorder them, but that is a pain, as you can
Yeah,
imagine.
that's a waste of
So,
time. It's under $500, I assume.
yeah, it wouldn't be more. It might even be under $100 if it was
Okay.
ever used, Marguerite, but don't quote me because I don't know. I will get a better sense in June of what books are kind of locked in a status, and I could give you more of an update even next month. So I will do that. I think that's prudent.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
Any other things we need to know about the director's report?
I did just want to go over there. A large section of it was committed to the native plant garden, which I know we can talk more about this next month, but I think I kind of covered any of the questions that would have come up, but I don't know if we want to discuss that. That was just more of a general update. We haven't talked about the native plant garden in quite a while. So
No. Yeah, I walked over and looked at it last week. It's coming along.
I did a look at it when I came in because I parked right in front of it today, and that was just so I could take another look at it prior to the meeting. It actually looks even better than it did last week, which is these were really the notes I was writing up was based on the volunteers being there last week. So
Who was telling me it's important not to take the seeded stalks off until the end of May?
Probably everyone.
Yes.
yeah,
May or
So
June, I'm not sure what.
they need to stay there and reseed, right?
Well,
So,
no, the birds and insects and stuff. Insects winter over in them. They lay their
oh,
eggs and all that. If you cut them down and throw them away, you've thrown away next generation. It's not a good way to promote native species.
no, it isn't. We might.
I would say we've gotten a better overall response from doing the Youth Nature Club
Oh, good.
and kind of structuring it for youth volunteers. This round, it's a small group of kids, but they're very committed. And then there's been a lot of interest actually about Mariana's birding program. So we already have a request from adult patron to do an adult version of the event. So we're looking into that because I think we are going to hire a local birding person to come in and work with the kids. We're already having discussions about potentially adapting that as an adult program, a companion adult program, so that they could participate. But it's nice because I think, we had sort of that grant commitment over the past couple of years on kind of the natural programming and nature, and we do a lot of garden programming. So it's nice to see that the community interest is still there. I'll say that.
That's good. This is slightly off topic, but it does have to do with the garden, sort of. But the area under the trees that isn't part of the garden, but is it was cleared, but it's kind of rough. That's something maybe that should get looked at for something. It's
Mhm.
kind of waiting to have something done to it. I guess that's a Jane question.
Well, we asked the J&J landscapers to clean that up and not use it as a dumping spot. So they took stuff away, but nothing more has been done with it.
Okay.
And I was wondering if the library property includes the in New York, we call them curb plots. The grass, etc., on the other side of the sidewalk, or, I mean, it's uh, dandelions everywhere, and I don't know if they're allowed to use chemicals or what the deal is with that, because it's all weeds.
Okay,
Know
so well,
that?
maybe this is a discussion for next time, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only so much we can do about what the landscapers do, because it's really under the purview of the DPW.
Yeah.
And we can ask for things, and where's the bench, by the way? The second bench, do you know? That's
The
been,
teak bench,
yeah,
that's with facilities. I actually thought about that last week as well, Jane. I will revisit that. There was material that needed to be purchased to repair it, and then the Friends had committed funds to that. But I
mhm.
do not know the status of
Who's fixing it though? Facilities or not?
facility. At this point,
Person?
it's facilities. Because remember, we met with the superintendent, and that was a little bit outside of what they do.
I do.
So we had talked to the facility staff, and um, that was where it was left. But
Yeah,
it's a good point, Jane. It's been, I think
been a
what is it,
year.
almost like 2 years now, year and a
2
half
years.
at least.
Mhm.
So if it can't be
It's Janet.
repaired, yeah, if it can't be repaired, maybe we need to replace it, would be
Yeah, is that
the,
the teak bench?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that is,
right in the front there where the sign and everything.
yeah.
There was
Solar.
a support column in the back of it that had broken off
Mhm.
in the winter. So this was not last winter, it was the winter before. So it
Yeah.
was about a year and a half ago.
Teak is very fragile, isn't it, really?
That
So
piece was,
that
and
was
that
apparently.
Usually it's good, but you have to take it indoors in the winter or the winter.
No,
And
are
that
you
bench-
talking about the area with the trees that's sort of adjacent more in the park side,
No,
Marguerite?
I'm talking about the ones in
The
the
one up front.
on
The one
85.
up front. Okay.
Yes, because there's one there and the solar bench, but the second curved one has been missing. That's what you said, for about a year and a half or more. Because last
Yeah.
spring we mentioned it to the DPW chair, and he said it wasn't there.
Yeah, I will follow up. I'll follow up with facilities on the teak bench.
It
That
just would
was
be
I
nice
was something I had to do.
to
So
have
Yeah.
it in this eventually in summertime. Would be
Yeah.
nice.
Because Janet, I saw you like shaking your head. Yes, teak is supposed to be really hard, but that one is, it's,
Something wasn't fabricated correctly or something.
yeah. I don't know what it
this
was, but it's
I'm
just, it looks ancient and
I
it's
have
not that
three
old.
that have been out and back for 20, 25 years and they're perfect. And
So
we
it
don't
must
treat
have
them.
been,
Let
yeah,
it just go natural. My husband keeps wanting to treat them, but then you'd have to do that every year. And
right.
that's not going to happen. So
But these turned gray and they started to, the fibers started to separate. It wasn't, wasn't doing well.
yeah.
It was
I'm
rolling
sorry. I
You
was
just
trying to
need
go back
you
to the
just need to
prior
look.
point that Marguerite brought
Yeah.
up was the
Tree.
tree area you're talking about that was cleared out. That that is the area that's near the park.
Mhm.
Yes, that
Yes.
you were bringing up, Marguerite, because
Yes.
that's not something I think traditionally we've had the gardeners maintain. I thought that was cleared out by DPW.
It was,
Right.
but now it's just blank. It's like a blank slate. It doesn't have junk dump there anymore, but it's not doing anything.
Well,
Was it supposed?
I don't know that we could grow grass there. It's pretty shady, but we could
Mhm.
mention, I could send him another email and or ask for a meeting, and Ryan, you and I could walk around with him again and just kind of ask some questions.
But it could be something that has a little bit going on, like plop a bench there or something.
You mean a meeting with DPW, Jane?
Yeah, just like we did last year. We walked around and just asked him questions.
Could
If-
we
Yeah.
fill it up with like hostas or something that love shade and just kind of cover the ground and keep
Whoa,
it?
whoa, whoa, we're gonna talk
know.
to him.
I know, but like,
Hold
I'm
on there. Hold-
trying to make no work for the gardeners, Jane.
No, the gardeners are not responsible for that place. I just mean something like, well, let's make a meeting about.
Yes, let's make a
Yeah.
meeting about that. I know I have a lot of pachysandria. You can have some of that. That nothing kills that, man. It's like, oh my God. No.
Okay, we'll set a meeting and we'll get back to you.
Good. Thank you. I think
Ryan, okay
that's a,
with that?
that could be a nice
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
It might be better to have him on site to talk about the parking lot asphalt issues too that I brought up in the director's report so he could see it.
Yes,
So maybe that'll be, I was gonna send him an email after this message to see if he had time to meet. And then maybe Jane, we can have you and make it more of a you know, a walkthrough. Because I used to
that'd be
do that
great.
kind of, you know, annually with Karen, was we
Mhm.
just do a quick walkthrough. So we can kind of work around his schedule if that's
Okay, well, I'll talk to you after the meeting. We can
okay.
confer.
Good. Thank you, Jane.
My pleasure.
That's good. All right. So if no more on the director's report, then how about the expense report?
So that, yeah, that's a good segue because the thing I brought up in the budget line was an expense issue. So there was a museum pass that had been paid out of the budget that I had not logged correctly into the expense report. So we were in a negative line item by about $54. So I found this out when I was reconciling the reports with accounting. And then we really the money should have come out of the dues line because there was a little bit of money that was still left there. There was about $100. So I talked to Marguerite about it and we just did a transfer. So during the next accounting report, instead of having $100 in dues, that's going to go down to about $50. And then the dues, the subscriptions line will be zeroed out. So this has all been corrected, but I just wanted to notify you guys of what happened. This was I am not perfect. So this was a good example of just me making a slight error and then not the museum pass was paid in late November. So this was missed for a while. So I do apologize about that. It just was sometimes I don't charge the correct line item when I'm going quick with accounting. And that was right when I started training part-time people to start assisting me on Tuesday nights with sort of prepping the reports. So I'm not surprised I made the error at that time. So
I think $54.31 or whatever it is.
I know
No,
I just don't like any financial
Right.
errors. So that's why I'm bringing it up. And I know it's a big paragraph in the director's report, but I don't like making mistakes. So that was one and I'll take accountability for it.
Okay. Any other questions about the expense report?
yes.
Yes.
So we talked a while ago about the numbers reflecting the end of the prior month. Because-
Yes, yeah, it's very much not like that this month, Janet. I'm sorry.
Okay. Because
This is because I almost have no payrolls done. I don't think I have any payrolls implemented. I almost kept it at the 10 instead of the 11,
yeah,
but
it's
the
more like 10.5.
financials, yeah, the book stuff is halfway through the month. So
Okay.
that's becoming more difficult, to be honest, than I thought it would be, because then what I'm doing is I'm keeping it up to date as I go, and then I have to go back and I have to delete it. Then I have to make sure that the numbers are correct. I can try to start doing this again in the new fiscal year for you, Janet. It's been hard for me to transition into going back and sort of deleting that stuff. And I don't want to delete something by accident, I
Can you
guess.
just, at the end of each month, just cut it off? Take a picture then and then go on with your next month's stuff?
Yeah, I could start saving them as separate files. That's what I used to do. So I'll start doing that instead of having an ongoing sheet.
Because it was supposed to be easier for you, not harder for you.
Yeah,
to make
this
this
has
change.
it's been harder. So, but it is skewed. It does not look very accurate as to what the month end numbers are because we're only halfway through May. We're not even halfway through May. So
So when you
But
have
maybe
May
don't build
12th
up
as so when you have May 12th at the top of the page, that's actually accurate. It wasn't supposed to say April 30th up there.
no, it was supposed to say it's accurate as of yesterday.
Yeah, okay. Sunday. Thank you.
And so you're going to shift the way you do it now so that it's less work for you, Ryan?
I'll
Fine.
try to experiment with some stuff. Maybe I'll sit with Janet if I have questions.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I want it to make sense when Janet's looking at it so that she's getting an accurate snapshot of the financials.
Yeah,
Everybody
and
knows.
this is for us, so it shouldn't be consuming huge amounts of your time.
Right.
That's not fair to you, although we like to see it because it helps, but it shouldn't be something that's more trouble than it is helpful. So,
Right.
anyway. All right, so temperature in the library.
So this continues to be a challenge. Many of you were here during candidates night. I think it was around 76. I think it got up one point to 77 degrees. There was not that very many people in the building, so we opened the windows and it ended up not being, I would say, adversely uncomfortable, but it was getting to that point. There have been a couple what I would call very humid days outside, and then the building has sort of when it's like a humid day outside, and then when you go outside, it's nicer outside than it was in the building. I think that is more of a challenge for us, at least. So I know that we've been told sort of not to open the windows because that confuses the temperature control system. I mean, one of the things I think I need to do is reevaluate with John exactly how the temperature control system works. I'm a little confused as to why we aren't able to have any sort of control over it as well. John did recently mention to me that the thermostats can be modified a few degrees if we try to change the sort of arrow keys on them. When we do this, it doesn't actually change the temperature. So
Just makes you feel
Yeah,
good.
it's kind of like give them some knobs to turn. It won't do anything, but there's so this is a John question. That are there two zones in the library? Is there upstairs and downstairs, or is there old building and addition? Because I know the children's room seems to have the temperature there can be wildly different from the upstairs.
well, for the members of the board who were here when we redid the sort of the thermostats and did the temperature control system, we were told that this would help to get us to a better place temperature wise. I mean, honestly, years later, what I can kind of report to you as the operating director is that that has not materialized. So, I mean, part of this is we have to try to have ongoing communication with facilities about what their temperature is in the building. Like, to be blunt, they're not here every day. So I don't, is this like a problem to let them know every day what the needs temperature wise are? Like, that doesn't really seem to me like it's an efficient use, quite frankly, of my time or of theirs.
Yeah.
So I know that John had a concern about too many people having access to the system. Again, maybe it would be helpful to kind of readdress this. I know that John and I tried to talk about this a couple of years ago, and again, years later, nothing has improved. So I'm reporting this to you because when I get complaints from the staff and complaints from the public, I let people know that we don't control the system. This came up with the gardeners. They were very concerned about the temperature during art and bloom because that could have an adverse effect on the flower arrangements, right? And it was a little bit warm in the building then. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I guess I'm like letting you know that this is still a problem and that I'll have to try to address it with John. And then if that doesn't yield any sort of result, I think I'll come back and let you guys know, and then we'll see what our options are.
Is it still getting really cold in the children's room?
That's only when the air conditioner is on. So I
Oh.
think what is happening right now is because it's sort of the spring season and it's not in the 80 or 90 degree temperature outside, is that we are waiting to turn the air conditioner on. And then when that happens, typically it's very comfortable upstairs, which is where the heat issue is right now. And then it is like very cold downstairs.
Yeah.
So,
So
like
upstairs,
we're having,
it needs help.
Yeah.
and this is like one floor is a problem in this building versus the other, depending on what season it is or what the status is. I don't know when the plan to turn the air conditioner is, to be honest, because I don't have access to the system and I don't know what sort of the thermostat plan is. I think when it hits a certain temperature, the idea is that the air conditioner will start being triggered. That's
Well,
my
it
understanding.
needs help, obviously. And I'm wondering, is it a question of where the ducts are, or is it a question of the thermostat isn't working well? It's a second thermostat, right? It's the second thermostat system in there. I know it is a charming older building, so it's probably got a lot of weird stuff going on with that. But I mean, worst case, put in some mini splits and just have it zones that you can control when you're in the room. I mean, because this is like been an ongoing problem since I've been dealing with the
Ever,
library.
yeah.
So
Me too. And the staff is, I think, justifiably frustrated. And no one is in a big rush to turn the air conditioning on because it gets quite cold in children's, in particular in Kim's office, if you
yeah,
guys have ever
it's
been here.
unpleasant. Yeah, it is.
So,
Okay, so maybe talk to John and tell him that we're concerned and it really does need to be reevaluated.
Mhm.
okay.
So, yep, I think that's the way to do it. All right, so our next agenda item is the annual authorization of Mary Fay Fund. Board will vote.
Okay. I'm just gonna get you a quick amount.
Okay.
But this is what we sort of referenced earlier. This is the sort of a supplemental account that was set up as a trust. And there is a restricted use of it where we can only purchase books out of the fund. Trying to find, I feel like we did have a quarterly report recently. So the amount in the Mary Fay Fund right now is $18,460.48. Sorry, it took me a minute to pull that up.
What is it, 18,400?
$460.48.
Okay. So we need to vote on authorizing you to use the funds to pay for books.
Yeah, so this would be for any book, like I described with the Ingram situation, any book bills that come in after we close out the fiscal year that are for the prior fiscal year. So it's like if a book we order in June came in July, but we
Mhm.
had already kind of closed the books, so to
Yeah.
speak, then we would use this money, which is restricted just for book use, to pay that bill.
Yeah, that's a
We,
kind of standard annual thing, right?
yes, you authorized this now, you've authorized this for the past several years. And then
Mhm.
I like to say that even though I did make a slight budget error, and I had to report on that, we've never actually had to use this fund in order to pay a bill out because we've been able to use the line item budget
Yeah.
to do it. So I mean, this is sort of more as an emergency. If we had to, we'd be able to do this without going to the Friends group. In the past, before we did this authorization, there were a couple bills that came in late and the Friends did pay for those,
Okay,
which was very nice of them.
I think we have an understanding. So I'm I'm going to move, or someone should move, to authorize Ryan to take advantage of the Mary Fay Fund if necessary at the end of the fiscal year.
I second
So moved.
Okay, and I'll do a vote. Jane,
that. Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Landry is aye. Okay, so thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Now,
Sorry. I know I have to re-explain it every year, but it is a bigger fund
yes,
now, so there's more
right.
money there.
They're getting invested differently, I think. So, okay, so Mary Fay, wherever you are, thank you very much for thinking of the library. That's a very thoughtful gift, and we appreciate it. So, all right, the library director evaluation. Did everyone get the copy of it that I sent around with
Yes.
Adobe, which Adobe and I are not getting along well this month. Uh, I think it was readable. And basically, a lot of the comments were, Mary, you did a really good job on that. You were very thoughtful in your comments. You may
I'm glad.
recognize some of your language. All right.
Saw
So,
that. Yeah, I'm glad it was useful.
it was extremely, and I think a lot of the comments were repeating similar things. Ryan, as you can see, it was quite a positive evaluation. I think. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or subtract or comment on before we start talking about the goals? Nope, we're good. Okay, so the goals for last year were, if I remember correctly, to create a new strategic plan. This is on page 6, right? To create a new strategic plan, to continue with the MPLCP grant application and follow-up, and to obtain MCPPO certification renewal designation. And that was the what you studied to enable you to order better, basically, right? It was dealing with vendors and purchase orders and so on and so forth. Is that accurate, Ryan?
Yeah, it's sort of about dealing with when things have to go out to bid and
Mhm.
what the process is. So it's through the Commonwealth. There's a uh, I had gotten certified during COVID, and then every 3 years you have to renew your certification, which is you do get to. I found out you get to take electives on things you're
Mhm.
more interested in. So there were classes that were free. So I did take the free classes. I'm not gonna lie, but the ones that I had to pay for were ones that I was sort of more interested in. So there wasn't anything specifically on libraries, but I did take one that was very interesting on funding schools and how that sort of is different. So,
Yes, well,
yeah,
anyway, all
but
right. So what we have here is number 1, create new strategic plan. The target date for completion was 11/31/24, and I think that's still ongoing, right? It's not completed, is it? Strategic plan?
no, we finished it. You voted a new one.
Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Okay,
No, it's okay.
what was the
I
date?
can, it's available on the library's website, but it was a while ago, Marguerite. That's why it was voted on last fall.
Oh, so it was about what? October?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it
October.
was due October 1st.
Okay. All right, thank you for setting me straight on that. So October 1, 2024, it was done. All right, continue with MPLCP grant application and follow-up work. The target date for completion was April 25th, 2025. And
Done with that
yes, we
for
are.
now.
Yes, we all said sadly. All right, obtain MCC PPO certification renewal designation, and that was completed by the date, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the fun part. Goals for next year, for 2025. We have down research and hire a space assessment consultant, seek additional storage space elsewhere in town, migrate the library website, and improve the lower entrance. Any other possible goals that we could consider in this mix from anybody?
Can I comment on one of the ones that's written?
Yes, please. This is a little draft here.
We haven't budgeted any money to hire a assessment consultant.
Mhm.
So that would be a hard thing to achieve.
Unless
Yeah,
we
so
use the fund.
that was that's a good point, Janet. I can get quotes from people to do that and then present it, and that could be the completion of the goal. It could be research into hiring or prepare a proposal to hire. When we did talk about this in January earlier this year, which it might have been a meeting you were not at, there was kind of a discussion about if we did hire a consultant versus having me do it, which the consensus was to not have me do it and definitely go with an outside party, which I think is the way to go. But there is funding available through state aid for us to potentially do that. So that would probably be what I would propose, so that we wouldn't have to wait for a budgeted. Because the other thing is we don't have a particular line item that would pay for something like that in the current budget. So to me, that would kind of be like one of the potential state aid expenditures is paying that individual out of that particular fund.
Do we have
Okay.
any other funds that could be used?
Yes,
Yes,
there
there's
is.
a library donation account as well, which could be utilized.
Right.
Okay.
When we set up the Southborough Library Fund, we spent $17,000 for a drainage consultant. We used PAR, and that was like 17 grand. And they came in and did it was like 2012, I think it was, did a very extensive look at the Band-Aid things we could do before the Main Street project bailed us out. But that was, and that Southborough Library Fund is continued to be happily invested and is doing quite well, thanks.
I withdraw my comment.
No, that's
Hire someone.
how to, Janet,
Mhm.
please don't, because how to pay for something is a very important factor
Yes.
in whether or not we're going to proceed with it. But I will always prepare like a proposal on what we could do. And I do think it's not like I'm going to bring the information to you and then it's just going to be rubber stamped. I mean, part of this is you may get different consultants who have different costs or different prices depending on what you want to achieve. I did briefly speak with Marie Latarte, who's the director at Clinton, to ask her what she did prior, because they did a whole like very in-depth space assessment, and they did it with an architecture firm. They went into, I believe, the like 5 figures to pay for the study, which is probably what we would have to do as well. But it's not an insignificant cost. They did a very in-depth report, so it depends on how you want to go with it. So I think that's the other factor here is that there might be a significant cost depending on how detailed you want the information to be.
So Janet, it was a totally good question. And here's the other part of it. Do we want a consultant to look at what we would do without doing any construction changes, like partitions or moving stuff or et cetera, or do we want just to, like, say, look at other places in town where we could store stuff,
Well,
something?
the assessment will be for the library and
Yep.
will be kind of, it may have recommendations attached to it, but the idea is to get a report on the existing space.
Okay,
At
and
least
do we
that's
want to
my
make,
understanding.
do, we-
So
do,
I think the recommendations piece would be like, you could do this to
Yeah.
maximize space here, or this is a potential space where you could put more books, or if you do this, you will no longer have space for programs, stuff
Mhm.
like that. And I think storage in particular is something that I would like to, I'm not going to tell the space consultant what to do or what to say. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to not be as involved in that. I'll answer their questions, but I will let them know that storage in particular, like we've been talking about getting other things. We just got the bookcases that facilities helped bring in. That has already forced us to reposition several pieces of furniture. And we did, I don't want to say we scrambled, but like there was a pretty significant, like we need to think about taking this piece of furniture and moving it to this place, which means that this piece of furniture has to move here. So
Right.
I think a lot of that can be put into a report. Like those are the type of things that I think
Okay, so not
we're looking
major,
at.
because when you said architect, I thought, well, for instance, the oak shelving that has all the old newspapers on it,
Yeah.
that's sitting there and it's not exactly maximum use of space, but that's going to require tearing something out and rebuilding it, maybe using the same wood.
Well, I
to-
mean, we do a lot of like front face displays too.
Yeah.
So that was when I got here, the area with the historic villager collection is where the magazines used to be. It doesn't sort of make sense as a magazine area because it can't do what the sort of the more modern shelving can. But if we
Yes.
were to make like a infrastructure investment, we were able to kind of take the frame of those bookcases and then have a woodworker, you know, kind of reinstall something. But again, I mean, there may be a pretty significant cost associated with that. So I
Right.
think we have to bear all that in mind, but that might be that might be one of the recommendations. Maybe the recommendation is you can't do anything with that area.
Okay. Yeah, so sort of we need a makeover.
Yeah, a makeover report is kind of what we're looking for, yeah.
All right. Okay, so maybe that would be a good goal. What do you think? Think that'd be a good goal for the year?
So I don't know if that makes sense, Janet. There is actually a fair amount for me to do before we even hire the person, because I will say, like, I spoke with Marie already, and I've been trying to get information on people who do this. It is a very niche ability. So trying to find somebody is going to be, I think, already kind of a challenge. Is that I would like somebody who has experience doing reports like this and making recommendations, who has had experience in a library. So that's really what I'm looking for, is somebody with prior library experience, but that is not readily available. That's what I've learned in the last month.
Well, maybe we should just say research-based assessment consultant hiring,
Okay.
like that.
And leave out hire? What do you think?
You guys would be the ones who would actually authorize funding. So I'm not actually hiring anybody. So maybe that is a fair semantic point to make.
That makes sense.
All right. Okay. And what about as a completion date for that? 6 months from now, 9 months from now? What do you think?
Well, it should be before this end of year push for, performance reviews and all that stuff, because that seems to get you tied up without any extra time. So
Yes, yeah.
But
what do you
Ryan,
think, Ryan? December, March?
understanding what Ryan has said, wait, I'm sorry, am I muted? Oh, no, okay. Understanding what Ryan has said about the budget part of this, that there may be other funds that could cover this. I'm just wondering if it's prudent to is it worthwhile setting the date so that if this needed to have a budgetary line item for the following year, it could? Or are we very confident that it wouldn't need it?
There is significant money in state aid right
Done.
now. We have not done a purchase. There has not been a significant purchase use of state aid funds since the CPA project, when we repaired the foundation juts, which was an additional piece of that project. So I want to say that was in 2020. So we've been getting money from state aid, and then we haven't been spending it. So in a weird way, this also, I think our town finance director would like us to have goals for state aid. And so this kind of in a weird way allows us to have one, right? Like we know that we're going to hire a space consultant. But there, I don't know how much this costs. I'll preface it with that, but there is pretty significant money in there to pay for something like this, is what I can say.
Okay, good
So
question.
what date would you like for completion?
I mean, if it's a choice between 6 or 9 months, I heard those mentioned. 9 months is better. If I can do this earlier, I will.
Okay.
I'll make that vow.
You want to do, what's it now? February 2026 or January
It'd be
2026?
March. 9 months.
If February sounds better.
Okay.
January, we're doing, we should be done with the budget of next
Right.
year by February. Because
Okay,
January is
February.
usually when things get finalized, early January.
Want to do February 30th, 2026?
28th?
There is no
Oh,
30th
duh.
of February, so he would love that option.
Yeah.
Oh, they moved that again. Oh, okay. Although you never know nowadays. They may declare that it has to be.
I'm always hesitant to weigh in because these are your goals for me. So I'm giving feedback if asked, but you guys get to decide when I do this.
Okay.
So
How about February 28th, 2026?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, good. Now, number two, and these are all sort of drop back positions because of the non expansion. Seek additional storage space elsewhere in town.
I think we've covered that. I don't think that should stay.
Okay, don't need to? What do you think,
Well, aren't we doing that by getting an assessment?
Mary?
The way that I was thinking about this was less about seeking the storage space and more about as we're thinking about the assessment, and Ryan probably already has this stuff in mind, but it's more of like a formalization of it. Like, what are the sections of the library or the parts of our collection or circulating materials or storage that we feel like we might be able to move off-site? And so, do we have an existing um, a framework for that, or like a brainstorm about what are the things that you, if you had to right now, and if there was space offsite, what are the things that you would move and why, and what would be involved in that? I don't know if that's appropriate, but it seems to me like as discussions about buildings in town formalize over the next year or so or not, there might be some jockeying for space, and it could be good to know how much and what kind the library might need.
I don't think there's going to be any space available that's decided on in the next year. After the vote on Saturday, the whole planning thing is at a complete standstill. So I think trying to find storage space outside the library would be pretty tough.
well, so I mean, one of the things that we kind of were, I guess I was thinking about, which I have not verbalized to you and not really had more high-end discussions with, was since a lot of we are doing a lot more on the grounds with the Youth Nature Club. There is more infrastructure, I guess, that we're maintaining. I would also argue that the gardeners they are very respectful and do not ask for a lot of storage or infrastructure space, even though they might need it, depending on what the thing is, even if it's just watering cans at the end of the day, right? Is there something we could do on the grounds even where we could store space for some of the outside stuff? And I mean, Mary's idea is kind of, I think, a valid one, only because I could write up kind of my thoughts on something like this, and then I could share it with you. So it could include that because that's more of an external building storage space because we store everything inside, but also, if it's more seasonal, I guess, like if it's something where it's craft projects for like a Halloween or a holiday season, could that somehow have some sort of offsite storage?
What do you store in that green container? Is that the chess set outside?
Yeah, and then there are these chairs we have for children that we use for the kids jam program when it's outside, so that when the chess set gets put out, the chairs that we use for those get restored in the
Okay.
Where do the
cabinet
chairs live the rest of the time?
in Eden.
So the library's getting cluttered.
It's cluttered now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm euphemizing. It's very cluttered. There's not enough room. So I kind of think, Ryan, if you want to do kind of a forward-looking plan of things that could go into another outside the library, and then there's just it really is starting to look like
Okay.
stuff's
Could,
getting like chairs are getting stored in the stairwell. I mean, that's
could we buy, a storage shed?
Yeah,
A
that's what I thought.
a decent looking,
Yeah.
sizable, maybe that could go under that little place that used to be all the branches and stuff under the tree.
No,
they said
no,
even
no,
have,
I'm
like-
sorry, let's stop right there. No. No, next to the burial, no.
Okay,
No.
this is
But
clearly a
maybe
against
discussion
the
that we
building,
need to be
maybe-
having, yeah.
Yeah.
This is clearly, I mean, we don't want it to look awful, but on the other hand,
No, not at
when
all.
when the chairs for special programs are lined up on on an emergency exit staircase, it's
Yeah.
just not good. It really isn't. And there's things like newspapers that people consult like almost never. So
Yep.
I think, Ryan, this is a golden opportunity to work on the feng shui of the library building and see if you can get a little breathing room in there.
And if
Yeah,
we do an
I mean,
outside one, we could even have like the high school has done murals and stuff with approval, obviously, or something like, something to jazz it up or make it not just look like a building outside. So,
Or just a prefab plastic building. I don't know. Well, this is a good discussion to be having because we really, it's only going to get fuller.
Right.
It already is.
Jane looks, Jane, you could look into attractive.
Short of putting
Buried
stuff
and
on the
burial
roof.
ground
I know.
right next to that, so we don't really wanna,
No, not next to the burial ground, but maybe
well,
Um,
that's what you're talking about, that's where that spot is that Marguerite's brought
that
up.
was off the top of my head. Not
But I'll
married
tell
to
you,
that thought.
all the time, those little sheds look like a failure on some level of having things go where they belong. It's like they're handy, but they
I'll think about it, but I
catch
don't
the
think,
eye.
I mean, maybe, as I already mentioned, there is already a storage container out there that's green and sort of, unobtrusive up next to the library where the faucet is and, more of utility area, maybe something along there, but not a freestanding, sorry,
Jane is having an aesthetic
I'm having it.
aesthetic moment here. It's
Well,
like,
but you mentioned something like that, and then she thinks more creatively about other spots.
well, I don't a tree house. I don't know, but anyway, let's think about it.
The treehouse,
What did you say, Mary?
He's just going to say, Jane, but think about the flower box possibilities. All of
All right, let's move on. You
Yes.
guys-
All right, I think this would be a good thing for Ryan to have as a goal for this year, which is to at least evaluate storage space for the library. How's that?
Well, maybe not elsewhere in town, but
Yes,
some additional
exactly.
storage space, period.
Within the library property, I guess.
Okay.
Or just seek a space, period. And then
Yes, I agree.
go
Seek
there.
additional storage space, right? So this is a good conversation. We're going to use all of our creativity. We're going to be looking that we're going to have an accessory dwelling unit on the back of the library there.
You put a treehouse on top of it.
I thought that would be good, but no one else seemed to like the
No, like
treehouse.
a playhouse.
Making that handicap accessible would be challenging.
Oh my God, don't even say that. We had a playhouse in the backyard. My father built it, and once we got too big, then he started putting his lawnmower and everything.
Definite. Oh,
It's a
okay.
repurpose. That was so I
You
understand.
have an early trauma in this. I understand.
No, I wasn't traumatized.
I'm just saying, I've never heard of a library treehouse. We could start a trend, you know?
Yeah, and then we'll hear from the
Everything. We'll hear from
everybody.
We'll hear from,
Yeah,
that's right, we'll hear from
Everybody, the
everything.
sign-
Bonnie would be on us in a flash.
Administrator, yeah.
people would
Anyway.
come to see. Well, but again, we do have an empty space with trees in it behind the library, and it belongs with our grounds, and it's
Okay.
waiting to be something. So
Yeah,
I'm
all
not
right,
saying,
I'll think about it, I promise.
yeah, I know. It's just that if we're not going to build, we have to revisit the way we're using the space right now, and we really do. And this is like, again, the last goal, the lower entrance to the library. We have the four little pillars and the little roof, which went on. I remember when they weren't there, and you just walked out into the rain, right?
Yes.
And that was put on to sort of help with the rain thing. But again, I I think somebody needs to look at our lower entrance and do something with it.
Agreed. That whole thing is just a nightmare for people, especially if they have different needs.
Yep.
Well, we talked about also that diagonal sidewalk. We talked about this with Karen Galligan, that according to, I don't know if that's ADA compliant, but that's why they wanted to keep it instead of just taking it away and having grass there, which would of course be prettier, but she was saying that that was, you know, that was,
Right. When it was ivy, it was always full. It was a basin of water, basically.
Hmm.
that was before,
Yeah.
before the reconstruction of Main Street and stuff, so
Yeah.
it could be different. We need to just, let's put it on the shelf there. There are lots of things we could do, so we're just scratching the surface, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be a good goal for the year to look at what that lower entrance could look like. It would be lovely with a bench, frankly.
Well, you know, where you had the table during COVID, that
Hmm.
space there, we've talked many times about putting, you know, containers with flowers or a
Yep.
bench or, but because, I mean, not that you do use it during, book sales and things, but, the majority of the time it's just an empty space,
It's a
right?
dead space, right? And it could be like people could wait for their rides there. That would be nice. People could sit there and read. That would be nice too. So let's think about it. I mean, I'm not saying
But,
definitely bench, but at least it's a consideration. Um, so would that be a good, would that, oh, first of all, what about a date for completion for seek additional storage space, the one we were just talking about?
anyway,
Same thing?
same thing,
Yeah,
I
why not?
think, yeah.
Feb 28? All right. And so with the lower entrance, is that a reasonable goal to ask Ryan to investigate? I talked to John Parent briefly. He said if you're going to make, like, say, the roof thing bigger, that triggers a whole bunch of stuff. But I just, I mean, am I an architectural person? No. Do I know that needs help? Yes. Do I know I can do it? No. But I think we should be asking people, or at least researching what we could do with the lower entrance and see if there's some designs or something that might
Okay,
be
yeah, I like that.
better use. So I'd like to see somebody design something for there and show it to the library and see if it's a doable improvement,
We need
as
to have
opposed to just
a contest,
adding a little bit of something or other.
Do I have a contest?
a contest. You
Yes.
can design the prettiest entrance, because mainly that is where everyone comes in. They don't use the front steps.
No, they don't. And the front entrance is beautiful, but the main entrance is this.
Mm-hmm.
So, needing needs some needs a creative mind who's done this kind of thing before. So, should we
Well,
leave it improve lower entrance or research options for improved lower
yeah,
entrance?
research options. I think that's
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question related to this, which we can absolutely table for another time? But is there any sort of rule about which sort of driveway entrance how the flow of traffic is ideally supposed to go in the parking lot in that area?
So, yes, DPW could probably tell you more about how the parking lot is supposed to function. Karen, I know ideally wanted um, people to only be able to exit through the area
That,
that was right in front of the door, which I
yeah.
think you can kind of see. I think
Yes.
that was sort of how the parking lot was designed. The problem is in practice, people do not follow that.
Yeah.
Correct. So
There
I'm
aren't any arrows or anything that,
right. And so my questions were twofold, whether we felt like we needed to try and predetermine that in a more formal way, and or does that naturally come out of whatever redesign gets put forward?
Oh, that's a good question. Like
a good
enter and
question,
exit
'cause
in
it's
two
pretty
different
close to
places.
the light. It's, I mean, for people coming and going in, and that should be an exit, like Ryan said, but
Yeah,
that,
and
that could be combined with the base.
signs and paintings wouldn't be that and like problematic to do before you fix the bottom. People go flying in there and
Yeah,
it's fairly, yeah, it's frightening sometimes, you know? So I think going in the other, having signage saying no entrant, do not enter and enter
And the
here.
book drop, it's easier to pull in from the lower, from the southern entrance, just if you want to go to the book drop, but that should be the exit. So
Right.
if you're just gonna go to the book drop, do you go in the entrance and then be
You-
sideways when you're
Well,
crossing?
Ryan doesn't want people parking there anyway to drop off books,
Yeah, they
so.
do, yeah, yeah. I think the parking
Well-
lot, Mary, that's a good idea. It
I
needs a
mean,
look.
is there
You're
a
saying
problem?
me, you're personalizing, but it is not designated parking. It doesn't have lines for parking space, so it's not parking. It can be a brief unloading area, but
Yeah.
the problem is that people sometimes do park their cars for a significant period of time. It is not a parking spot. So I'm stating facts.
yeah,
So
Parking lot needs
as
help.
as a suggestion against the flow of discussion, if I want to leave the parking lot and go right, which is the way I go, lots of times I can't. There's so much traffic there. So I go out the other way.
mhm,
And, when the light is backed up, that other entrance is much more appealing
Yeah.
both directions,
So Janet,
That both directions and
yes.
just the entrance, no entry,
Yeah,
Janet.
so Amy's correct. The one that's further down that you're mentioning, Janet, is
Right.
actually designed for two-way traffic. So that's an in and an out, not an in only. The
Okay.
idea with the area in front of where the door is, it was really designed to be an out only, I think, when the parking lot was first done. But I will say this, this is more of a conversation for the DPW superintendent than for me, because I don't design and work with roadways. That's like not really my purview. But I remember talking to Karen about this for a pretty significant amount of time. And then the other thing is you could just have that one area in the back and have that be the only in and out, because there've been times, especially when we dug up the area for the Main Street project, is that wasn't an accessible entry or exit in front of the door. So people could only use the one that was further down. By the same token, there's been times where the other one has been closed because of whatever. So then you have to kind of use the front one as an entry, because otherwise there wouldn't be any other option. So, but I can get feedback from DPW on this.
Okay.
And my point in only bringing it up now was if we were trying to think creatively or invite the public to think creatively about what that entrance could look like, those designs might be eased by thinking about the traffic pattern too, or you might be able to do more as a result of that.
It's a good thing to bring up no matter when, Mary. It's important. And the other thing I wonder, Ryan, when you mentioned about you might want to keep that south one open, hotter, big planters that can be moved, but not easily, not just so you can drop your library books off across there, or there's lots of options, I think. More
Yeah, there's
attractive.
safety vehicles too. If if the fire truck needs to get in there, if they have to come in the north one, it's not the most convenient way to do it.
But DPW would be able to advise us, I guess, then, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's another thing to keep in mind, is the safety element. If you need an emergency vehicle to get close to the door.
Yeah,
So-
and then what would they do? Back out?
Well, do emergency vehicles have to obey little arrows on the ground, or can they go?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah,
not if someone's, card arresting, they want the ambulance.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so at all. I'm just talking if he wants to block off in some fashion the south entrance. So
This
people,
is interesting. This is good. We'll rethink the whole look down there. So
Well, the other thing is that a lot of this could have been discussions. We were going to have to kind of rethink how the parking lot was going to work anyway. I see Mary nodding. So like, now that we are going to be in this space for a while, I think this is lending us to the natural next step, which is how can we improve the existing space as it is?
Yes, yeah, good.
So that makes sense.
All right, so should we say this? Research options for lower entrance and parking lot?
Yeah.
Or should we do parking lot as a separate thing?
No, let's keep it, well, you can, I mean, how many do we need?
We need 3 and this would be the 3rd.
Oh, no, let's.
What about the migrating the
Website?
website?
Okay.
keep
You
them
can
at-
have more than 3, Marguerite.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's have
I
more. We're
think you
gonna
keep
give you
them
so
together.
many, Ryan. You're not gonna like us.
I feel like the website is something that's already like Ryan's planning on doing it anyway. So it's kind of like it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, I don't want to make this sound, but it was kind of like a good box to check that was going to get checked anyway.
It was kind of like the strategic plan last year, Mary, is that it already is a goal that I have, but we know that our current website vendor is going away in October. So there already is a designated time frame. The website will have to migrate in October. We don't have a choice. So,
It's
but
good
I
to
would
have them
agree. I think
written
that,
in. It's an
sorry?
acknowledgement. I think it's good to have them written in because
Yeah,
it's an acknowledgement that it's going to take a chunk of his time.
Yeah, and
So my point, it's just not, I don't feel like it's something that we are adding on, but I feel like it's something that is on the books and good to get acknowledged.
Yes.
all right, so this is good. Research space assessment consultant. 2, seek additional storage space. 3, migrate library website. 4, research options for lower entrance and parking lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to
Oh
do.
God, right. Is this
Wow.
like too much? Is this
No.
too many goals?
No, it's
After
good.
that grant, after doing the grant application,
Yeah.
this is achievable.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on it?
Ryan, stuff that, as you said, is it stuff that you would look to try and address anyway? Because we are going to be in this building and we didn't get the grant and we need to figure out how to make the best of it all.
Yeah, but this gives me targeted things to do,
Good.
which I think is good, other than sort of generally saying we need to look at how to move forward after the grant, right? Like these are sort of designated buckets, I think, that in the next year we should pay particular attention to. And I'll say to you guys what I say to my staff when they're doing goals is that, and this has happened with me before in prior cycles, is that the goals may not get done. And there
Yeah.
may be reasons why. And then I will explain to you why a goal was not achieved. But I think these are all things that I think give me guidance on the direction that you guys want to go on improving the facility and the grounds in the next year.
Yep. So in a way, we're in a good position. We do need to make space changes. All right, we're not going to be adding an addition, but we're going to be basically renovating within our own
Well, and we're not
abilities
going
and
to have the
budget.
Finn School available to store things either.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not in the short term anyway.
yeah. So a lot of things changing around here. So, okay, so these are the 4 goals. The only thing I need is the achieve by date, a target completion date for research options for lower entrance and parking lot. For the,
You want to make shorter date? I mean, 9 months is a pretty long time. Not February, but maybe. I don't know. You can put them all 28th of February if you want. I just thought.
okay, the library website is October 25th, 2025. Is that reasonable?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, that works, Ryan? Okay, and then research options for lower entrance and parking lot, February 28th, 2026.
Yeah,
That's having them all come in at the same time.
why not? And if it happens earlier,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
good.
it gives Ryan the choice of which ones to work on first, second, third
Yeah.
by having him that way.
Okay, so is this like totally daunting or is this a doable thing, Ryan?
I think it's achievable.
Okay. Good. This is all almost all physical changes, but it's a chance for everyone to use their creativity. Oh boy.
So should we vote to approve?
Do we need to move to accept the,
Well, so I think what's
Oh.
gonna, if I may, I think
Mm.
what's gonna happen is that Marguerite still needs to finalize the evaluation and then sit with me because we have to do the pay rate. So this has to be on the June agenda as well. What she can do is based on the feedback from you guys, she can put the goals into the completed agenda. So then you guys have that as part of the complete package. This discussion I think is very helpful though, because trying to do goals at the same time you're looking at a final evaluation doesn't work, which is why I sit with the staff and do this as a separate meeting before we
Okay.
sign off on everything.
All
So
right.
is that acceptable, Marguerite? As a
Yes, and I've got agreement on the goals at this point. Should we just vote to accept the goals as they are, just to lock them in, because I'm leery
Sure.
about not voting on things?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
so, yes, I move that we vote to accept the goals as written.
Okay. Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, that was Janet. All right. Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Yazdani,
Aye.
Ms. Tinty,
Aye.
Ms. Maney,
Aye.
Landry is aye. Okay, those are the goals. Now, I think that takes care of the evaluation until Ryan and I sit down, and we'll bring it back. And then where's my agenda? Good. I like those goals. I think they'll be helpful. All right, the next item on the agenda, number 7, is the drip irrigation system for the Southborough gardeners. I guess, Jane, do you want to speak to that, or Ryan?
Well, I thought Michelle Landis, she's not in the, is she here?
No, I didn't get a chance to invite her, Jane. So I apologize.
Okay,
It
because
was
I'm not the one proposing that she is. She was gonna come and talk about it, so I reminded her this morning via text, but I don't. Let's skip over it.
All right, so we'll
Put it off.
postpone. All righty. And the library director contract. Well, all right. Jane and I sat with Vanessa, and we worked with the
well,
draft.
so Marguerite, I don't know if at this point you want to adjourn and go into executive session.
Yeah, I suppose we should, although it's not the specifics of a contract, it's just these steps that have been taken, but we should do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move public comment up so that we can do public comment and then go into executive session and discuss the library director contract. So do we have any public comment? No hands raised. All right, I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting and go into executive session. So do we have any more people that are watching, Ryan?
It was, well, Sam Stivers was here for a little while, but he did depart a little bit ago. So he came on after, but for the minutes, it's at 12:14 that Marguerite's making the agenda motion. There's things I have to do to the Zoom. I have to shut us down on YouTube, and I
Yep.
have to stop recording the session when you guys adjourn. So just
Okay, let me read the wording to go into executive session. The board will be entering into executive session per MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21, and not returning to open session to discuss library director contract negotiations. Exemption 2, as the chair has determined that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's position. Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn the open meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right. Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Yazdani,
Aye.
Ms. Tinty,
Aye.
Ms. Maney,
Aye.
and Landry is aye. Okay, the meeting's adjourned, except for now we're in executive session.
okay.